Hi, everybody. Welcome to Let Me Listen. And today I have with me a very, very special guest, Agniva Das. And he is from an organization called Bright Circle, which is headed by or founded by two people, Ramkrishna Sinha and Srini Ramaswamy. And why is it so special? It is so special because one, it has a partnership with over 250 companies globally for exclusive LGBTQIA hiring. And the other thing is that they also provide consultation and DNI training as well, and that's also global. In all sense, they truly empower LGBTQ plus across the world. Welcome, Agniva. Happy to have you on my show.
Thank you so much, Bhavna. Yeah, thank you so much for that wonderful introduction for that. So I'm Agniva, my pronouns are he and his, and I'm a part of hiring team in Bright Circle.
Fantastic. That's great to know. I mean, on one side, it's a great platform for people to feel, uh, you know, feel a sense of belonging because I feel that that's an innate sense that every human being longs for, a feeling of belongingness. You don't want to be feel left out, and that's like a basic need, in fact. And that, if it's not addressed properly, it creates a lot of other psychological issues and many things. I mean, we all know how being left out feels for everybody, right? So that's the world that we are looking at, where everybody feels connected, everybody feels um, wanted and belonging, and there's a lot of harmony between everybody, and that's what I envision.
True.
So so now, okay, this is something that needs a lot of ground uh, to be clear, to be covered, in fact, globally, and especially in India, where still it is kind of a taboo to talk about it openly and to accept in larger numbers. And to start off with, let us get into the basics of how does it actually affect the people. You must be interacting with a lot of people on a daily basis where they come to you with issues. You've seen it firsthand, and we've also interacted with a lot of people, and it's something that's pertinent and needs to be addressed. One, people are asked uncomfortable questions, right? And what
Yeah.
we have,
So
yeah,
yes, it's good.
what we have, but how do we address that?
Yeah. So being a recruiter or a hiring manager, first thing we should keep in mind is we should not ask uncomfortable questions to a candidate. You can't ask their personal details like their sexuality or their gender if they are not comfortable. If the candidate is out and they are pretty comfortable about it, you can ask the same thing. And also, if you are, talking to LGBT folks, you have to be a little sensitive. Like an example, if you are talking to a transgender person, you should not misgender them. If a trans male, you should address it because before going further, you always should introduce yourself with your pronoun, and also that will be, that will give an space to candidates. They also feel comfortable, and if they are not, mentioning their pronoun, you can always ask them, or you can use they, them, these are the pronoun. You can use them if you don't know their pronoun. Our world is all around that. So pronouns, so many pronouns are there. So if you don't with they or them, so these things always you should keep it in mind.
Oh, that's great to know because um, that's a very valid
So
point, in fact.
for a transgender folks or non-binary gender or fluid person, whosoever it is, you always should ask their preferred deal.
Okay.
And
Agreeable, there seems to be some sort of an issue with the network.
So as I was just explaining, about misgendering, you should not do that. You are a recruiter and a hiring manager, so you should keep these things in mind. And also, if a person is not comfortable with their legal name, you should ask their preferred name, and you always should address them with their preferred name. That will give them a space, and they'll feel more comfortable to talk about themselves. So this is how it starts. If you make them feel comfortable, they also will give you more, and the interview process also will be really good, and you might get a very good candidate for your organization that can drive a change in your organization.
Absolutely, that's so very well said. I mean, drive a change in the organization. I mean, these are the changes that we have seen, at least in the last couple of years, where we've seen that the hiring process itself has changed quite a bit. And the points that you mentioned, some of them are inculcated, and some of them have already been implemented in quite a few organizations, where there is a section where either, I mean, as you said, to make everybody feel comfortable, there's also a drop down which says I don't prefer to say, and which is equally good. And that's a fantastic point wherein you're not making any judgments about a person. You're just letting them choose whether they want to tell out loud or not. Right? That's
Also, you
fantastic. I
can
mean,
put one option as others, where if a person is not identifying their gender identity or sexuality, you can always they can also always mention the same thing in others. They can
okay.
write their own sexuality or that gender that they can mention.
Oh, that's a wonderful point. That's something that needs to be noted. That's great. Okay. So when we have gone from that level of, from a hiring manager's perspective, from an organization's perspective, and how an organization actually brands itself as somebody who is inclusive, who's truly inclusive, not by just the policy, for the sake of the policies, but actually ground level inclusive. And when they go with that kind of a mindset, it's a different platform that they're providing to people who wish to join them, right? That's a different culture in itself. And there are, I've heard a lot of things where teams and supervisors are, very sometimes gender insensitive, and that could cause a lot of friction and conflict within the team. And in fact, it's very personal, and it's not about profession anymore when it comes down to this, because it's highly personal. And how can one get out of such a situation, and what happens? How do we tackle
So
this?
yes, yes. So they are also an individual, and these things happens every. I mean, in most of the organizations I'll mention. So many organizations, they are auditing about all these things. So it should really require. And also Pride Circle, we do a sensitization training for corporates. So these things also helps those supervisors or team leaders, or teammates, whoever a person will be working with, LGBT folks will be working with. They should be sensitized. If a person as a transgender person or a non-binary person, or a person who is in a closet, so if you are not sensitized enough, you can't give that space to those folks, and they also will not be comfortable in a team. And when we are working in a team, these things are really needed. If you don't, being a supervisor, if you can't provide a safe workspace for your employees or your teammates, it's really not a good thing. And this sensitization training really helps to understand more about LGBT folks and how to address them, and what should do and what you should not do when you're talking to an LGBT folks or a new hire.
Absolutely. Yes, that's very well said, because creating an awareness is the first step towards acceptance. And the moment we have a better understanding about everything, I mean, you're talking to a fellow human. You can't really put them in buckets. Nobody can work that way, and nobody can be productive that way. And you very clearly mentioned about creating a safe space in the office or in the workplace. And that matters more. And that matters the most, in fact, right? So,
Exactly. Yes. So also, when you are addressing a group of people, being as a supervisor, you should not use that ladies and gentlemen or boys and girls. You always should use gender neutral terms like hi everyone, hello folks, hello people. These things also give the space to, you are including everyone, whoever is not identified as either male or female, you are including them also. So these things, these little things really give a safe space to every individual.
Absolutely. Small things go a long way, right? So there are other issues as well. I mean, people while getting hired as well, right? So in the drop down, if somebody might have this confusion that if I give a certain orientation or if I give a particular gender, then will I not get hired, or will there be a bias during hiring? And they also do truly face a lot of difficulty in getting hired into places which are really conducive and places which are inclusive. So how do we go about creating more awareness of this?
So firstly, there is a misconception that DNI hiring does not mean that companies, organizations will hire unskilled candidates, unskilled employees. Being an employee, whenever you're applying to a company, you always should brush up your skills, and you have to be confident. Interview procedure will be similar like all other interviews. It will not change. Only the thing is, companies are giving space to every individual. Like with DNI, they are giving space to LGBT folks. They are telling that our company is very inclusive. You can come and work here the way you are. So this is just the thing. That's it. But cracking interview, it's completely up to you. So it will not depend on your gender identity or your sexual orientation.
Absolutely, that's fantastic. Yes, that's really great to know. And from these are from an individual perspective and team perspective. So when we're talking about this entire scenario from an organization perspective, now how do organizations generally create a gender neutral workplace? Are there, of course, there are policies in place. How does it trickle down to the ground level?
Yeah, so creating a gender neutral workspace, it's a huge thing, and it's keep on going on, and you have to learn few things, you have to unlearn few things. That's how companies are also growing, and we are also understanding more about it. So you can start with gender neutral policies, uh, gender neutral washrooms. That will really, it helps to every individual to use the washroom. What happens, a transgender person, if a trans woman, they can't use a woman washroom, and they will not be obviously comfortable using a male washroom. So these things also really require to give a safe space to every individual, including same-sex partners, insurance, or if you can change your leave policies and gender neutral policies, like instead of maternity leave, paternity leave, you can give a parental leave. So these are the basic examples you can always use in your organization. And creating a safe space always starts from a top level management, and it has to be in a ground level thing where all team members are also using those. So these things you have to keep it in mind being another organization.
Wow, I'm certain
Yeah.
that the culture at Pride Circle is really, really great because you've given such valuable inputs and insights. So when we move forward, I would like to touch upon things like how organizations are now getting into being more inclusive of everybody, not just LGBTQI. It's also about disabled and everybody else. I mean, the entire inclusion perspective, right? Now, how does the sense of belongingness foster among people? How are there any events? Are there any? Is there anything that happens? I'm sure that there would. So please shed your light on that.
Yes. So, yes. So, Pride Circle, we have started Asia's biggest LGBT plus job fair. So it
Mhm.
started in Bangalore in 2019. They followed by Delhi in 2022, office fairs. And we have seen companies have 600 plus open recs, and uh,
Go ahead.
yeah,
Go ahead,
and
please.
100 plus, yeah, LGBT folks they have participated so far, and 50 plus job offers has been placed through Rise virtual this year,
Oh,
and also so many
fantastic.
companies,
Yeah,
yeah,
please
so
go
many
ahead.
companies came after the uh, we closed with companies, registration and all. So after that, also so many companies came and we had to say no to them. These things really give companies also to hire LGBT talent, and these things are very confidential. Uh, these things only companies head of those top level management, they only get to know that this person had two diversity initiatives. These are very confidential things. So there is also one misconception that if I go through DNI, all my team members will get to know that what is my gender or sexuality, and
Okay.
I mean as I identify as LGBT. So this is a completely misconception. Information will be there in your top level management, and these things are very confidential. We don't share their details, and those top level management also, they don't share any of those details to team members. So if you join an organization, you'll be working like other fellow employees, so there'll nothing be discrimination or anything as such. And apart from that, we do offline hiring also, where we work with the company's requirements, and we share candidates. And so, I mean, through that, we have so far placed to 200 plus offers, and you are in pipeline as well.
Wow,
So
that's
these
great
things we
news.
are doing. Yeah.
That's
So
great
so being
news.
I mean, Pride Circle, we do all these things. And also another thing, we have launched a report called Best Practices in Hiring LGBT Talent. So if
Oh,
a
okay.
company, they don't know how to hire LGBT folks,
Mm-hmm.
that report will give them a idea of how to talk to candidates and what are the things you should keep in mind, do's and don'ts and everything. That you'll get it in our website.
Wow, that's great news again, because points to be noted here is that there's already a checklist, or rather a guideline, which enables people to be more sensitive and more aware of how the entire process should happen. And the other thing is that the confidentiality aspect that you spoke of really goes a long distance, because that's what people are really scared about deep down. That whether if they are in the closet, they do not want it to get out unless they are ready to tell about it. And the moment you know that you're assured that the senior management is going to take care of your confidentiality, then there's that trust. And once there's trust, then everything else is in your kitty, right? And everything, the entire world runs on trust.
Exactly. So yeah, a person who is in closet, it's very difficult for that individual to participate in DNI initiatives like job
Very
fairs or
true.
anything else. They feel very insecure because a queer person's life, we all have to agree that a queer person's life is not very, easy like a heterosexual's life. Sometimes it's easy, it depends on the environment, but mostly it's very difficult. So they feel very scared. We as a hiring manager or recruiters or hiring manager, they should give them a comfort where they can, feel comfortable to talk about themselves if they want to. And also that's how they'll join, and they'll give their best performance in the organization.
Very true. Very nicely mentioned, and couldn't have worded it any better. So, there are a few other things that I have in mind, which is about, is there a content management system, or rather, a knowledge bank where people can get to know, and instead of the organization themselves, of course, there will be pockets and there will be events, there will be various different things that the organization emphasizes and creates an awareness over a period of time, uh, repeatedly, right? But if an individual or a team or a manager wants to know more about it, is there a place where organizations generally have something of the sort where it's easy for people also to learn and to understand more about it, so that they become better people,
So
right?
yes, definitely. So the companies, they started. writing more about their DNI, the diversity and inclusion, uh, whatever they are doing. So they started writing all about it, about their ERG team in their website. So that's how you'll get to know more about those details. Also, we Pride Circle, we not only work with LGBT talent, we believe that allies play a very major role. So last year
Absolutely.
we have, yeah. So last year in the Pride month, where world was suffering with COVID, no one was going outside. We started Ally Challenge, where 12,750 allies participated from across the world, 58 countries, and 108 organizations participated. So that Ally Challenge, it was a gamification where we used to give one task, like you have to watch a movie, LGBT queer film, or you have to read a coming out story. That's how you get to know what exactly is happening in LGBT folks' life, and that's how you'll become an ally. And end of the at the end of the challenge, you'll get points, and you can redeem those points also. And the person who will win, they'll get goodies and prizes are there. And this year also, we started doing the same thing. Last
All
year it
right.
was for 21 days, but this year it's for 7 days, and registrations it's going on, and we'll start it in some time next week.
Fantastic. Point
And
to be noted
also,
again.
yeah,
Yeah, I
yes,
would like
and
to
also
tell
apart
about
from
that. Yes, please give us the
yes,
link
yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
so that I put it up on all social media channels.
This is also in our website, and we'll give it.
Absolutely, yes. Needs more awareness. Yeah, yeah. Please go ahead. Sorry to cut you short. And
Yes.
also,
Okay. So apart from that, we have launched a book with live
mhm,
stories. It
mhm.
calls Equal Life. It's available on Amazon,
Okay,
where you'll get to read from a DNI person who works in an corporate. Their, I mean, being an ally, what are the things they have done, their stories basically, and also a person who is studying in a school, or a homemaker. All kind of stories are included there. So whoever wants, they can go and buy it from Amazon. That also we have launched this year.
brilliant, brilliant. That, I mean, hats off to the entire company and their initiative into doing so much far better than many other companies. And you're a notch above, I'm sure, and a pioneer in that direction, because I have not come across another company with, I mean, with so many different channels and avenues that I get information from, but I have not heard of anything of this magnitude and this kind of an acceptance and an awareness anywhere else.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. This is your.
Yeah, there was some network issue again. No worries. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So could you please repeat once again?
So I said this kind of magnitude, this kind of pioneering effort in the direction of creating a sense of belongingness, creating a sense of a level field for everybody to play and to be accepted. I mean, it's a big story, and it's huge as well in terms of everything, psychological safety to whatnot, everything, right? I mean, mentally, emotionally, everywhere that people actually want to be felt, heard, feel inclusive of the entire team and the organization where they belong. So it's a long journey, and I see that there's leaps and bounds that has been created or forged by Pride Circle, and I'm really happy to see that. So there's one last thing, Agniba. So there's this grievance system that I really want to talk about, because most times, you know, a, a sense of sadness sometimes or grief engulfs people when they are subjected to atrocities at the workplace, and especially for an LGBTQIA person, how would they actually go ahead and address or tell it out loud to somebody who is creating? a non-judgmental and an encouraging space for them to speak out their truth. And again, that should also be with confidentiality, right? How can companies come up with something like this?
So definitely, you have to, companies should create a non-discrimination policy where every individual, where they can include homophobia, misbehaving with LGBT folks or every individual. And it's very important for an organization to create a safe space for every individual because we are going and working there. And if they are giving us a safe space, we can be them, we can be ourselves. It has been observed from so various research that productivity increases more where people can be themselves and where the environment is very easy. These things also has been observed. Organization can create strong posh policies, not specifically for women, for every individual. They can include here, and these things they should keep it in mind. And yeah, that's it.
That's great. I mean, Posh also being inclusive of everybody in the organization, not just for women. Yes, that goes a long way again. And yeah, and I also truly believe that, it's not just about Pride Month, it's also about each month being Pride Month. Why should only one
Yes,
month be Pride Month? And I mean, it's a continuous journey. It's a continuous improvement. It's live, right? So
it is.
I
Yeah.
I would like to, end our conversation on this note where I tell people always that uh, bring your true self to work, right? Bring your authentic self to work. And by creating an organization or a workplace which is conducive for people to speak out their truth, people to feel safe, people to feel heard and belong, by creating such a space, you are bringing people's authentic selves to work. And that's exactly when your organization will attain success. That's how I see it.
Yes. So, some suggestions will be to hire, if you want to hire an LGBT folks, you can start with creating a gender neutral JD. It's really important when you're quoting a JD and it's a very gender bias. These things, these little things, you can all obviously change. You know, as a recruiter, you should use gender neutral languages and put your DNI initiatives in your website and promote them so that people also will get to know more about it, how inclusive you are as an organization. And once again we go to offices. I mean, in physical office, then security, from the security person to housekeeping person, they should be more sensitized so that each person works in the office. They should treat them equally, dignity and respect. So these things always you should keep in mind. So these are the few tips and tricks for those people who want to hire education.
Fantastic. I mean, I could never think of the JD. And when you mentioned that, yes, now I remember that. I mean, I haven't come across a gender equal JD. So that's
Yes.
something that needs to be incorporated. I mean, these are small things that you're talking about, but they make such lasting impact. It's great to see that it's being noticed.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Agniva. I really enjoyed and I gained a lot of insights, and I'm sure our listeners would too. I loved having you on my show. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. It's a pleasure, to be here and talk more about LGBT folks and their hiring practices. It's really wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure entirely. Thank you.